In the meantime, a total of 1,888 people on 21 flights have been evacuated from Sudan, majority of them British nationals and their dependents. The British Foreign Office confirmed that it had ended its rescue effort on Saturday night, saying, quote, "The last evacuation flight departed Wadi Sadna airfield at 9 p.m. Sudan time on 29 April. The Foreign Office said the evacuation of British nationals and some NHS doctors without UK passports has been the largest of any Western nation from that country.
Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, Deputy Dean of the School of Postgraduate Studies in Beige University, joins us now to really take a look at this issue that is currently ongoing. Prof, thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about the fact that this is becoming more like a perilous journey, if you want to put it that way, because as of Wednesday, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as the Chairman of the Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabere, they had actually said by Friday, Nigerians should be back. Today, it's Sunday, and not one have been able to cross, at least for those who we know are part of the federal government's convoy in those buses. Not one of them have been able to make their way into Egypt and back home. And the question is, where is the gap? What is going on?
It's actually, thank you for having me. It's actually very disturbing, very, very worrisome, and you will have expected that, some days after that money was released or after that money was approved, by now we'll have had some of our citizens back home. But the fact that we haven't achieved that yet just shows that there's a problem with coordination at some levels, and we just want to hope that it is not a result of some agencies trying to be territorial, trying to claim responsibilities that is not theirs, in a situation where another agency will have been better at executing that responsibility. And of course, there are pointers to it, from the very moving, very touching, very chilling statement there by the ambassador to Sudan, Ambassador Laniyo, around the fact that they're not the ones in charge. One would have expected that in a transnational operations like this, the Foreign Affairs Ministry should have been in charge through the embassy, and of course, yes, we understand that there are other agencies that are also responsible for this kind of emergency, like humanitarian affairs, like NEMA, but I doubt if they have the logistics, the network, the connection, the understanding, and I doubt if they will have it as much as the Foreign Affairs Ministry, represented by the embassies in those countries. And this is a time of emergency where we need hands-on leadership, not somebody sitting distantiated, cocooned in an office and giving instructions. At some very high levels, we need some interventions. Why are they not giving our citizens clearance at the border in Egypt? At this level, we expect that maybe ministers should be talking to themselves, even presidents should be talking to themselves, so that they can create some emergency corridor for our citizens to get to the airport and get there lifted. How difficult can all these things do? Can all these things be? I keep asking the questions. If other countries can do it, then why not us? We understand the ambassador trying to give leadership, provide inspiration, give hope to the students, but we can also blame them if they are becoming agitated, because their life is at stake here. There's increased level of uncertainty, and you do not know what will happen at the next minute, because it's a war situation, and of course there's no difference between right and wrong in that kind of situation. Anything can just happen, and this is what we should avoid, really. So going forward, I just think that we should get more serious.
Okay, we should get
more serious, really, and just whatever we can do, we should go for broke, pull all the stops to get our citizens out of that country.
We should get more serious, pull out all the stops. Okay, thank you, Prof. It's interesting to note your submission. Now, how better could the Nigerian government have handled the temperament of Nigerians in that place to avoid such provocations as threatening to attack Nigerian embassy there and their officials? Crisis management is critical.
Yeah, crisis management critical. It can be very difficult when you are dealing with not just an agitated mob, not a crowd, maybe a crowd or a mob, but an angry crowd or mob. In the circumstance, we're talking about a crowd that is very, very angry. It can be very, very difficult dealing with them. But I think I commend the ambassador for that initiative, trying to talk to them, to calm frayed nerves, but it may not go too far. What they want to see is action, some success in getting them out of that place. And of course, they want to also see that their colleagues who are at the border in Egypt, are able to get into Egypt to the airport, or maybe some kind of passage is created for them to get to the airport. They just want to see success. And at those moments, it is impossible for you to actually, it might be very difficult for you to pacify them, other than bringing results. They want to see results, not pacification. It can get very bad, really.
It really can get bad, but at the end of the day, let's not forget that this issue with people being stalked at the Egyptian border is not synonymous to Nigerian students, because reports coming out of Cairo says that the country is actually insisting on visas for everyone who's trying to pass into their country. Yes, we understand it's a war environment, but what more really, aside from the Nigerian government? Now let's look at the African Union as it stands right now. What role can they really play to ensure that at least we get more people out of this war-torn country and back home to their own countries?
But I don't think the Egyptian authorities are actually very fair, with this kind of rule, this kind of requirement, considering the emergency that we're all in, and against the background of the fact that their border is contiguous with Sudan. So ordinarily they should expect influx of foreign nationals. All they should ordinarily have done is to strengthen their own mechanism for ensuring that people who are coming to their country from Sudan don't end up residing in Egypt. If that's their fear, they should increase their regulatory mechanism and create, corridors for them to have a safe passage.
And the visa request is, a lot of the reports we're getting says, is more on fellow Africans.
So I think they are insensitive. They are insensitive, they are unfair. And if there's a way that we can communicate this to them, let it be communicated, that they should be a little more relaxed in their rules. And that's why we're saying that at the highest level of governance, we need intervention at this time. There's nothing wrong with our president picking the phone. If it's not done at the ministerial level, at the ambassadorial level, at the consular level, there's nothing wrong with our president picking. I mean, we're an influential African country. Our president picking the phone and talking to his opposite number in Egypt. It can happen. If the AU is not also responsive in this kind of situation. And of course, AU is going to be bothered by bureaucracy, by red tapes, and of course, maybe at some point they'll be intervening. But in this instance, there's an emergency in our hands. We can't wait for those red tapes. We need to activate anything that should be activated as quickly as possible.
Okay, it's interesting. I was actually coming there, the role of the AU in a situation like this. Yeah. Shouldn't there be an intergovernmental committee or something like that to communicate with the African Union and to step down the red tapes at such a time as this? I understand that there could be bottlenecks, red tapes, procedures, but all is fair and good, they say. So in a situation like this, shouldn't there be a way to communicate with them, or shouldn't there be a way to step down the red tapes? And
there should be, definitely. There should be. I agree with you, absolutely. Do not forget also, there's also politics with AU. There's politics of the AU itself. When we have some countries thinking that they shouldn't be fully part of the African Union, even if they are statutorily part of it in terms of psychology, they feel external to the visions, the mission, the cardinal objectives of the continental organization. So some of these things might be subtly playing out, which is why they might disregard, care and concern for fellow Africans. So these things are real, but again, it doesn't stop us, from asserting ourselves by being protective of our citizens. But the point has to, if you don't mind, the point has to also be made that it's about time we begin sensitizing our citizens. We have different kinds of policy. We have a diaspora policy. We have a foreign policy. Before now, Africa used to be the centerpiece of our foreign affairs. At the time, it was citizen diplomacy. Yeah, those ones are fine. But we also need an immigration policy to sensitize, create awareness for the citizens against, traveling to some kind of countries, because you are in need of one kind of service or the other. It's about time we're concerned about that.
Because a country like Sudan, they've only had 11 years of peace in over how many years? And by the way, the controversy concerning the mismanagement of the $1.2 million, we do have the permanent secretary who's in charge of the federal government's inter-ministerial evacuation of Nigerians from Sudan. He's actually reacting to the controversies. Let's take a listen and we'll come right back.
That $1.2 million you're talking about is not just for the entire response. It's only for one item. for the buses. Do you know how much it takes to hire a bus from Khartoum to the border? $30,000 per bus. $30,000 per bus times 40 buses. Can somebody, any good mathematician amongst you?
1.2 billion.
That is not billion. Million. That is where your 1.2 million comes into. We now mobilized the first tranche approved by federal government out of this, which is $400,000, and transferred it. If you take out $400,000, what does it come to?
800,000.
No, 1/3 of the total. Once they gave us 13 buses times $30,000 is how much? 390. 30. Can somebody calculate for me?
That's 390 is correct.
390. They stopped giving us. You remember I told you they gave us 13,000. They're supposed to give us 13 point something buses. They kept the 10,000.
Right. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, your quick reaction to the permanent secretary there.
Well, it's a welcome development that this is reacting to speculations that maybe because of embezzlement, that's why, they haven't been effective with the evacuation. So it's providing an explanation. It's a welcome move, but again, we cannot stop saying that if $1.2 million is not enough, let's find more money, and send to them. And again, let there be coordination among the agencies responsible. Agencies, Foreign Affairs Ministry, Diaspora Commission, Humanitarian Ministry, NEMA, and all of that. But not, essentially, it shouldn't be a question of agencies, residents in Nigeria, that are based in Nigeria without a structure, without a network, taking leadership in the evacuation business. It should be those, that have the requisite network, in those countries. Imagine the ambassador in Sudan saying that they are not aware of it, they only take instruction. One would have thought that because they are on ground, they know what is happening, they understand the nuances, the innuendos, everything, that they should have been at the leadership. But of course, they are almost lost. So if he's telling us this, what are we left with? Other than to just conclude that there's a lethargy of productivity among the range of agencies that are supposed to be responsible. There should be increased synergy, increased coordination, so that we can have an efficient evacuation.
Okay, well, Prof, yet again, some are even saying that the $30,000 per bus is outrageous, and the Nigerian government is saying, well, it was a hard negotiation.
But we shouldn't even bother about the price this time.
Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, good place for us.
Okay.
Well, good place for us to say thank you for your in-depth analysis tonight, and of course, looking forward to Nigerians being, evacuated back home soon enough.